Let's go to the next tab of information about this property. Now, let's assume you've done your evaluation, you've done your due diligence, and you want to proceed even further down the pathway with this particular property. That's when you can assign yourself or your teammates tasks to do. By default, when you add a property, we create 3 tasks for you. Visit the property, call the property owner, and prior to that, new property needs review. Those are just the 3 most basic things. That's kind of your initial vetting process. But then you can add all sorts of additional tasks, as you can see here. For example, I can, eventually add a task to make an offer, but I might add a task to schedule a meeting or send a direct mail, send a text message, etc. Those tasks appear on your timeline, which ultimately become to-dos on your calendar for that property. Each one of these tasks can be marked complete, snoozed for a day, a week, a month, or deleted. So you and your teammates can, keep track of your flow, and there's a certain level of accountability there, of course. You can have an unlimited number of tasks for a property. And I'm talking a little bit in the future here, but our plan is to expand this feature such that you and your organization can design your own set of tasks that you like to go through for every property. You might have a set of 5 things that you just always do. Build those into the system, and then those tasks will be created automatically every time you add a property.
So here's what Ben just said. This is the top way that real estate deals are done right there. This is what he said. He said in the tech terms, okay? But and for those of you that hear me and follow me, you hear me talk about negotiations all the time, right? It's all about negotiations, about getting the price down. But let me tell you, the ultimate secret about negotiations, it's not how good you are at the front end negotiations. It's how good you are at keeping track of everything. So here's what an average investor does. They're out in the street, they're talking to sellers, they're talking to realtors, and guess what? They're taking notes like on what are they called? Those yellow sheets of paper. They're putting them in everywhere. Maybe you're saying something into your phone, and then let me tell you something, it becomes a total mess. Again, think about it. You're driving, you identify the property, you immediately figure out who owns it, you immediately have the ability to find out what the values are. Then you have the ability to be able to create that ultimate way of making money. Schedule a time, right? Maybe you did get a hold of the owner right away, and the owner said, hey, I'm leaving for vacation. Are you going to remember that? I mean, I know you think you're going to remember that at that moment, right? Because most of us have 30 different ways we track things. Right here, same thing. Boom, you click a button, right? 7 days from now when he's back from vacation, hey, guess who? It's Pete. So this feature, this task feature, as Ben just called it, absolutely critical to your success.
I couldn't agree more. And that reminds me of a feature I should show you very quickly since we were just talking about it. I did mention the notes before, but let's say you're out on the road, you look at a property, you type some notes like seller was home or some such. I type tonight, I'll hit save. Back home when you log in, you or your teammates pull up your property list, which I'll do right here. You're going to see that note immediately right there with the list. So you can imagine that would be super helpful as you're building tens, hundreds, or dozens of properties. You want to quickly eyeball those lists and view the notes, your progress. And while we're here, let me show you a couple other features and things you can do while you're looking at your list of properties. If you recall a minute ago, we did a skip trace and we got 3 phone numbers and 7 emails. Well, maybe I want to make some phone calls or send some text messages right from my smartphone. I can do that here. I simply tap this drop down and choose what I want to do. If I want to call this number, I'm on a desktop here. It's a Mac, so it's going to open up FaceTime. But if I were on my iPhone or my Android, it would dial the number. If I click text, it's going to pre-compose a text. It says, hey, I was driving by, I saw your property at, insert address here. I'd like to make you an offer. You can customize that text message, but we have a couple pre-populated ones for you. You can immediately hit send on your phone and that text goes out with a single click. Same with email. If I want to shoot an email, I can write from my smartphone. I can select an email, click that button, opens up your email program, type in your message and hit send. So we make it as easy as possible. Also, the skip trace functionality that I showed you when I was in the detail, you could also do from the list. So you could select multiple properties at a time and skip trace more than one. The other thing you can do, let me do a quick example here. Let me go back and add another couple of properties. If nothing else, I'm illustrating.
While he's adding, let me just tell you what he just said. Efficiency and effectiveness. See, the thing in real estate, it's a numbers game to a certain degree. You got to be quick on your feet. You got to be able to respond quickly. When the worst things you see, and you hear it all the time, and you might be part of this, that paralysis of analysis, right? People 30 different ways of trying to do something confusing. You're out in the street. You got 50 properties you want to look at. You see what just Ben showed you? Point, click, email, text, call, evaluate, owner, everything.
Absolutely. And also we want you to be able to operate at scale. And that's, you know, Pete mentioned that I've said it's been painstaking. It has, but it's been a labor of love because honestly, I love building software for people. But what I love even more is seeing you guys scale with it. And let me show you an example. Let's say I've got a big list here. I can perform tasks on all those items at the same time or more than one at a time. I can go in, for example, and let's say, set all of these to the marketing status because I know they all are. I can do that with a single click, and then immediately they're marked as marketing. And somebody else can then subsequently go in and look at only properties that are in marketing, for example. So we're trying to make things as easy for you as possible to scale. There's several other actions you can do here. I can export my list if I want to import it in a Mojo Dialer or any other third-party system. It exports to an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV. I can add them to additional lists, which is a feature I'm going to touch on in a moment. I'm going to skip it for now. Or of course I can delete properties if I've just ultimately decided that I don't want to pursue that property any further. So since I did mention it, let me talk about list management. Out of the box, we have one list and it's called all properties. That's where all your properties go. But you're going to quickly learn as you add more and more properties, you're going to want to organize them in different ways. Completely up to you how you do it. What I've done here as an example is I've created two additional lists, one called hot leads and one called driving for dollars. You can create anything you want. But let's say, for example, 77 Lakeland Drive is what I'm considering a hot lead. I can simply check it, click actions, add to list, hot leads. And then later I can go into my hot leads list and I'll see that property isolated from all the others. So this is a great way if you have, say, for example, you've got a set of people driving for dollars for you, you can create a list based on their name. They can add all their properties there. You might want to create a list for vacant homes, that type of thing. So you can have as many lists as you want. You can organize your properties in any way you want. And by the way, just because a property is in one list doesn't mean it can't be in others as well. It might be a hot lead that you got from driving for dollars, for example. So it's completely up to you how you choose to organize your lists, organize your properties. So I talked about updates. I talked about phone number. I do want to show you a couple other quick features here on the list. And then I definitely want to leave some time at the end for some questions. But as you start building up your list, you're going to want to do things like sort. For example, right now I've got it sorted so the most recently updated property is at the top, which is kind of useful. If somebody's adding notes, then that kind of implies that that property's hot at the moment. You might want it to bubble to the top, but I might want to sort by something else. So I can go over here and I can sort by valuation, for example. I want to see my highest or lowest valuation properties first. I can sort by equity percentage or the date added. Just because I updated it, maybe I don't want it to bubble up to the top. So you have complete flexibility there. You can also filter your list by any of these statuses, and in a very soon to be future version, we're going to allow you to add your own statuses. So if in your business model, there are other statuses that make sense to you, add them, attach them to your properties, and then you can filter them. So I could quickly go in and say, let me see all of my properties that currently have an outstanding offer, for example. That's what that's useful for. And lastly, I can also go to a simple search here. I've got 100 properties and I want to zero in on all of them that are on Carlin Drive. I can just type part of that address and it'll immediately filter down to that.